night edition of the Buddy Martin Show, brought to you by our fine sponsors at Meldon Law and others. Appreciate their support and your support. You're listening. We're coming up in just a minute with uh, our friend, um, our friends from up in Gainesville. We have Allie Pete Wilbur tonight. Um, Steve Russell will join us. Scott Carter. I've just returned from a really important and poignant meeting at the Ocala Quarterback Club. I'll tell you why. It involves the remembrance of a very special player of Florida who we've lost. We'll tell you more about that coming up. Broadcasted to you tonight from our Ocala headquarters. We're back from Panama City this week, there for the game. As I know you all are thinking about, how about that game? All of a sudden, the point spread has dropped. Well, what's going on there? Well, I'm sure that Steve Russell can opine on that. And our correspondent down that way, Allie Pete Wilbur, surely has some wise words. We'll talk about that and what's happening. It's too early to judge too much, but like I told our friend Shane Matthews, he said it's just one game. Well, all season long, all summer, all we had was just talk, nothing to go on. Now we got a game. So at least we have something to talk about. You can pick it apart and tell us what you like, what you didn't like, etc. And then, of course, Saturday afternoon at 4:15, it's game two. The season is underway. Gator football is being played. So stay tuned. Coming up in just a minute, Steve Russell will join us, followed by Allie Pete Wilbur and Scott Carter, all right here on the Buddy Martin Show. So go tell your friends and neighbors what, go up and tell them that Buddy Martin Show is now on the air. We need you. Come join us. We'd love to have your thoughts. Love to have your viewership. Love to have your opinions. You can post them right here on the boards. Stay tuned. Coming up next.
Yes, it's time again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking. But be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Good evening. Welcome to the program, sponsored in part by Meldon Law and Titan MRI Imaging. Standing by in the orange and blue room, Steve Russell, just a moment. This is the first time since 2006, preseason AP poll, that Florida, Florida State, and Miami are all ranked in the top 15. Been a long time. What about these South Florida Bulls? Well, are they going to be the real deal? Is the point spread high enough? Will you take the points? I think it's down to 17 now. Let's go catch our friend Steve Russell and get his thoughts. You can hear him, of course, now in Gainesville again. We're glad to have Steve back on the air and glad to see his show. He'll tell you more about that and where you can see it and hear it and all that, because it means I want to know if he's doing the post-game show again. So I want to know. Evening to you there, Steve.
Hey, buddy, how you doing? Yes, I am doing the post-game show again. Even after that win the other night, you know, there were some people who still had questions about Florida's performance, and I get it.
There'll always be questions and comments. That's what makes Florida football so great and such a pain in the butt at the same time. And I've called a lot of those shows coming home at night to Ocala back in the day, and when you did those shows, and they're very trying and difficult sometimes. But let's cut right to the chase. Before we go to the statewide picture I just talked about in the preseason, in the opening, let's just pick apart one more times. I know you talked about it all weekend on your shows. And by the way, tell people again who don't know where to get your shows now and who they're with, etc. You got several. You're back on the air. We're glad of that. Then we'll talk about the game.
Sure, buddy. Thank you. Did sports scene for 27 years and took a little time off and did a couple of podcasts, but we're back now on ESPN Gainesville, WRUF, the usual time slot, noon to 2. But you can catch it on Facebook. You can catch it on YouTube. We're live there. And of course, I enjoy taking the emails and the calls and talking to various guests. We've been doing that. We're going to have the play-by-play voice of USF, Jim Lauk, on tomorrow, for example, to get his thoughts on the team. So thank you for allowing me to do the plug. And it's been a lot of fun. Folks have been so kind to say, glad back doing the show. And it'll be week 3 here pretty soon. So it's been good.
Well, listen, you deserve it. I just got back from the Ocala Quarterback Club where I got up for a moment to to suggest and ask the club to honor Wayne McCall, who was a member of the club and, of course, the great Ocala captain of the team. Fine, upstanding person. You know about Wayne McCall. And we had a chance to visit with his son, Matt, and his widow, Beth, and his daughter-in-law and what have you, and his brother there. And the McCall family is such a great family. And, having families like that involved. And I think it was Matt who said he cared the most about 2 things, the town of Ocala and the Florida Gators. And he did a magnificent job of representing them, and it was a high honor. In fact, the award will be a high character award at the University of Florida for the athlete, probably may not be, person who exhibited the highest form of character and to represent what Wayne represented. So that will be quite an honor. It's always an honor to have your local people remember you that way,
Sure is. And that, when you live in a community for a long time, you are part of that community for a long time, that recognition is really good. But it's also a testament to what a person has done in their life and for that community. And, obviously he did that for Ocala, no question.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you, speaking of continuity, Steve, how many years have you done this show?
27.
Okay. Can you kind of, not game by game, blow by blow, tell us how things have evolved in 27 years, thinking back to the days when you first started, what the audiences were like, how it felt to you, and how it evolved for you, and how you feel when you get in the saddle again?
You and I, buddy, you even more than me, go back a long way in Gator sports history, because when I was a student here, Florida had won nothing in football. Always wait till next year. You remember that.
Mm-hmm.
I got here when Doug Dickey was coaching. Larry Vattel and I did a show called Dial a Score. And I'm really going to age myself here, because we used to have our fellow students run to the AP wire machine and cut off scores, and we would read them, and people would call in and, hey, who won the Slippery Rock game? Because, again, maybe 1 or 2 national games a day, unlike now. So getting scores to people back then was a pretty important thing.
Yeah.
And, when I started doing that, it was at the end of Coach Dickey's tenure, and people were calling and complaining. Coach Dickey's not winning. He won an SEC at Tennessee. Why can't he win here? But look, social media has changed everything. It's just the world we live in, I think, is a little bit meaner at times, less patience. Money has a lot to do with that. If a coach is getting paid X dollars, well, paying the coach X dollars, he or she should be winning. I get that. But even the other night, and look, I created that show. And I created it because I wanted fans, buddy, to have a forum to call and talk about the game that night. So if I'm not willing to take callers that are critical, as opposed to being, hey, Florida's great, well, then I shouldn't do the show. But, the other night there were questions about the offensive line play, especially the right side of the offensive line. Some were questioning Trey Smack. I don't, but I get it. Why? And again, the thing I hear all the time from a vocal minority, I think, is Billy Napier's play calling, throwing bubble screens. Why are we doing that? So, even when you win sometimes, and I think fans are doing that in this respect. If you're having trouble with this team, what's going to happen when you start, playing better teams? My answer to that is you don't necessarily play the same way. Hopefully you learn from that. Hopefully you get better. And then Billy said this after the game. They threw something at us schematically we had not seen. Well, that's coaching. Good for them. Good for Coach Cooper, right? So they had to adjust their blocking scheme to something they'd not seen. Good coaching. So we will see what happens Saturday and how much they get better.
Taking that same principle to a game we saw much to our horror, North Carolina and Bill Belichick. And what an embarrassment to football that was. I don't know what all your people have been saying to you, what you've heard. I contend there were a number of coaches who did not have their teams ready to play. North Carolina and Bill Belichick is a good example. I don't care that he had 70 new players. That's his job. He's a coach. Do you think for 1 second Steve Spurrier would have been there and done that? He wouldn't have gotten that predicament. You're a coach. You don't get in that situation. I just thought that was humiliating. And I don't know what your folks have been telling you. Oh, it's his first year. So what? You can pay a lot of money. Let's see the result. That's not acceptable. And I think there are other cases. I said this on the air earlier, said it on Shane's show Monday. You can call Steve Sarkisian the greatest play caller of all time, whatever you want to call him. I don't, but a lot of people do. The fact remains is he has not been that. And he also hasn't been the best quarterback coach I've seen. That sidearm fastball, 98 miles an hour, that we saw Manning throwing is not a pass you'd have seen out of a Steve Spurrier quarterback. He would allow him to throw that football that way. And he's been there 2 years, and he's throwing those sidearm fastballs from 10 yards out. I'm sorry, that's not coaching. Once again, it goes back to the coaching. I don't care who you are. There's two high-profile guys right there who didn't get it done.
Bill Belichick, a lot of people don't like him because of what his demeanor. So there were a lot of people that thought, good, he gets what he deserves. And it's one game, but it was highly embarrassing. I have a little different take on Sarkisian.
Okay.
I think he is a good coach. I think he is a good play caller. I kind of felt badly for Arch Manning because everybody, because of his last name, he's going to win the Heisman. He's going to do this and that. For 3 quarters, buddy, he was not very good. He was better in the fourth quarter. If you watched him throw in the fourth quarter, he was better. I think he's going to get better, but he was not good in the first 3 quarters. And let's also give Ohio State and its defense some credit too. Because remember,
Tricia, I know he did a great
Texas
job.
was knocking at the door, and I thought their play calling, to your point, near the goal line was about as unimaginable as you can get.
Atrocious.
So that's on Sarkisian. Yes, I'm with you there.
And by the way, the same thing happened to him last time, and in the Georgia game last year, it's the same thing. He got stoned inside the 10-yard line. And I'm thinking, is this a trend or what? I mean, look, I know we all make bad play calls. Even the best of them do, but I'm not buying into him being the genius of play calling. And I don't know anything less than 10 wins and at least getting him in the finals of the Heisman is not a good coaching job by Steve Sarkisian, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I think Arch Manning will get better. I think he will learn from this. And let's face it, when you're a kid who hasn't played much, you got to go up against a good Ohio State team. That's not the easiest assignment that you get to open up. But, I think he's still a good player. I think the fact, in my opinion, he played a lot better in the fourth quarter. Let's see if that carries over now. They don't play anybody for a while. So if his numbers don't get better based on the competition they play, there's something wrong.
Yeah. Tell me, Steve Russell, who impressed you in opening weekend? It was a great weekend, by the way.
LSU did.
How about individuals?
Well, I'm a big Jaden Ball guy. I give that dude. Look, Florida's running back room is loaded, but he's special. I mean, there was one play where the offensive line didn't block at all, and he broke like 4 tackles.
Yeah, 3 guys shot.
Yeah. So again, he get him the rock. I think he's a very, very, very special player. And, we don't get to see a lot of practice. You know that.
Mhm.
Tramel Jones winning the backup job,
Boy, that was impressive.
poised, knew where to go with the football.
Mhm.
And you mentioned Shane because, he played the position pretty well. He
Mhm.
was impressed too. We
Mhm.
talk about it all the time when he comes on with me. And his poise, knowing where to go with the football, didn't make mistakes. That impressed me from a young quarterback who nobody maybe thought would win the backup job. So those two guys impressed me the most.
What about the quarterbacks around the country? I see a quarterback power ranking. I don't know who did it. Anybody can do it. That's Nussbaum number one. What other names do you expect to see on there in the first 10 or 15 names?
The kid who I think has a chance to be really good is Mateer from
He's number
Oklahoma.
5 on this.
Yeah, because he has his offensive coordinator that they hired, and he's with Oklahoma now. And at Washington State, their offense was dynamite. Auburn, if the Arnold kid throws the football, he's a good runner. And, the other day when Alabama got beat, don't discount who the offensive coordinator was for Florida State.
I'm not. I think he made a big difference.
Me too. He's really good in the run game, and I think it showed in that game. The quarterback was a factor with his legs. Gus Malzahn, as a head coach, beat Nick Saban, I think, 4 times. So he wasn't intimidated by playing Alabama. I think that's made a difference. But let's face it. It's 1 week. LSU, though, winning at Tiger Stadium, Clemson's Tiger Stadium, coming from behind to do it, didn't score a lot of points, buddy. Nussmeier was just okay, but LSU won that game because of their defense, and that was something I didn't say very much last year at all. So if their defense plays like that, and their offense, I think, will get better, they're going to be a tough team to reckon with.
Did you see Pyron very much for LSU?
No, did not.
I didn't. Yeah, somebody put some video up on one play. All right, so other names being mentioned, you can agree or not, and Allie will join us in just a moment. Lenore Sellers, she's the real deal, South Carolina.
Yep.
What a great win for Shane. His dad, was a specialty teams kind of guy, and he had a great call, calling back and going for the kick again, and the special teams taking it in for the touchdown. Great win for him. Lagway was ranked 3rd in his power ranking. Drew Aller was 4th. Mateer, we mentioned, was 5th. Haynes King, been around the block a few times.
Terrific runner. Oof.
He was 6th. Sam Levitz. Let's see, where is he from? USC? Where is he from? Sam Levitt. I don't even know.
I don't know either.
Carson Beck from Miami. Diego Pavia from Vanderbilt. You got to win. And then Klubnik didn't have a good day for Clemson. Everybody thought he might. Those are some of the names that we've seen. So,
and it's funny, buddy. If you look at those names, some of those guys didn't have great statistical games.
Yeah.
Carson Beck didn't throw for 300 yards. Neither did Nussmeier, but they led their teams to wins, and that's the most important thing. So it's going to be interesting when the schedule tightens up here to see what some of these guys do against better competition.
He's got Castellanos down 20. I'd put him much higher than that. Castellanos is running. He's effective, and now he's got Gus as got his offensive coordinator. Is Florida State the real deal?
I'm not convinced yet. I don't know, buddy, if I think they're obviously much better than I thought they were going to be, because I think it was hard for people, including me, to get 2-10 out of my head. It was just hard watching them play so poorly last year. And, Alabama had all the hype. Well, okay, FSU's not. I don't care if they're home or not. They're not going to beat Alabama. They're not that. They can't be that good. I don't know that they're that good, but Alabama just looked bad. They looked disorganized. They did not play with discipline. That they better fix that in a hurry, because if they don't, by Alabama standards, it's going to be a bad year for them.
With a winter of discontent. And let's see if this person, I'm sure she saw FSU and I'm sure she has an opinion about it. Let's go talk to Allie and see how she's doing down there. Big game in her neck of the woods with South Florida. Good evening to you, Allie. How you doing? Say hello to David.
I'm good. Hey, Steve. How are you?
How you doing, Allie? Good to see you.
Good. You guys are mentioning Sam Levitt. That's Arizona State's quarterback.
Arizona State. Yep. Thank you.
Yeah, we need Allie to tell us. Give it straight. Too many things. I can't get it all right in your head. Well, how was your weekend?
It was good. We took the kids up to the game. We had a really good time. Didn't get rained on. We got there after the rain, so that was kind of nice. And it's lovely to just attend a stress-free football game where there's never a moment where the game is in doubt. It was coolest moment for me was watching VB3 with that spectacular catch. Like, our season tickets are in the former player section, and so like watching Eric high five guys that he played with who also played with Fernell was really cool. They like a lot of guys felt like that was their own kid out there because of their relationship with Fernell Brown. So that was a cool moment.
A lot of Gator legacy love going around there for sure. Well, listen, what about the South Florida team, Allie?
I think Florida is going to dominate. I think Florida has too much depth and too much talent, but this is a little bit more interesting a game this week than I thought it would be previous to them playing Boise State, honestly. And I think, a genteel-less Boise State is obviously not your playoff Boise State team, but I don't know, my dog's going crazy in the background there.
What's his name?
His name is Tucker, and I don't know.
Tucker, stop it right now.
So I don't know what is going on with Tucker. I'm telling Eric Tucker is going nuts. Anyway, but I still think, they put the world on notice. They beat a top 25 team, a team that was in the playoffs last year. They didn't just squeak by. They dominated them. I think Alex Golish is a really, really good coach. And so, he is a weapon for that team. And I think Byron Brown is a really athletic dual threat quarterback. And I'm excited to see what this defense can do against him.
Yeah. I think Vernell Brown was and maybe the new backup quarterback with the two stories that I like the best.
Yeah.
This whole thing. Steve, don't you?
The first thing I thought when I saw Vernell Brown is that, and buddy, I'm sure I watched his grandfather play.
Mm-hmm.
I watched his father play. Mm-hmm. Now I'm watching him. I felt really old watching him play. But one of the things that he did that impressed me as a punt returner, a lot of guys, when they do that, get the ball and they juke around. What did he do?
North.
Went up the field.
Just
north and south.
Mm-hmm.
That impressed me for a young player like that to do that. He was really, really good, dynamic.
Yeah, he was he's fun to watch. He does not look like that was his first game as a freshman. But I think, honestly, looking at the totality of this game, the storyline for me is no penalties.
Yes.
I think that is spectacular. One of my big gripes about these Napier coach teams the last 3 years, obviously now into his fourth season, is that they're so disciplined Sunday through Friday. We don't hear anything about them getting in trouble. Everybody does exactly what they're supposed to do, but they played relatively undisciplined at times the last 3 years. There were boneheaded penalties at the most inopportune moments, season after season. And it was always one of my biggest complaints. So to see them have 0 penalties when they played as many guys as they did, 13 true freshmen took the field. That is, I think, a spectacular storyline and such a testament to what they're doing behind closed doors there.
And Steve, if we're going to be so critical as we were last year, they had the wrong number of people on the field, couldn't get going in the right direction, etc. We have to turn on and be complimentary.
Yes.
Having their stuff together and things like that.
Yeah. Allie's absolutely right. I mean, I don't care if you're playing, middle school. If you don't commit a penalty in a game, that's impressive. And I think it does also go back to how, look, you can be successful now in a lot of ways. You can go through the portal, and you can have a really good team, and you can sustain that. But Billy's done it kind of old school. He's filled in with the portal here and there, but he's mostly done it with, homegrown talent that they coach up and put on the field. And I hope we're starting to see the benefits of that, although we know what the schedule is, and they could be a really good football team and be 8-4.
Uh-huh.
I mean, that's just because of the schedule. And I know some fans are going to say, well, we need to get over that. Okay, I understand there's a hump you have to get over, but that's why we go play.
Well, I mean, look, it sounds stupid, but is there going to be a season where we look for more than just the W's and the L's? I mean, Nick Saban said, don't always focus on the outcome, and I'm not saying we shouldn't think about it. We should hold them accountable. But they played really well and have a couple losses to Georgia and, and whoever, LSU, whatever, and win 9-10 games. I'm happy with that. They're not going to go undefeated.
If they won 8 games, which is the same number we won last year, but they were in every single one, I still think that's progress. We got laughed off the field by Miami and Texas
Right.
A&M.
Yeah.
So if it's the same record, but it's just down to the wire each time, that's an entirely different vibe to me than what last season's was. And I mean, the second half of last season was incredible and it was such a turnaround, but sitting in that stands in Texas A&M, we didn't belong on the same field. And that was the same thing with the Miami game. If I never get that feeling this entire season, even if the record hasn't improved at all, this team has taken a huge step in the right direction.
And here's the other thing, buddy. I'm not pointing my finger at Gator fans. I'm talking here any fan base that would think this, okay? What have we talked about the last couple of years? The schedule. And then when you play that tough schedule and you go 8-4, fire Billy Napier. Well, you can't have it both ways. If the schedule is tough, I mean, eventually, do you want to get past that threshold and take the next step? Sure you do. But look, those other teams, Florida's got to take, we talked about this, that 4-game stretch. If Florida splits that, they've got a real shot, I think. You agree, Allie?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we've got LSU, Miami, bye week, Texas A&M. I don't know that anybody else has a tougher 4-game stretch, and there's still tough games down the road past that. That's
right.
Just this one little stretch. If we're 2-2, I think that means we beat at least one team that a lot of people didn't expect us to beat. And I think at that point, you're looking at 9-3 being a real possibility with an outside shot at 10-2. And I think that's huge.
And I'll say this: if it's 9-3, Allie, and it's the right 9-3, they're a playoff team.
They are, as long as those losses aren't like somehow they stumble against Kentucky or Mississippi State or something like that. You lose a close game to LSU, you lose a close game to Texas, and you lose a close game to Georgia or Tennessee, something like that. All teams that potentially will be playoff teams, you are going to the playoff with this schedule the way that it is. Now that Florida State looks good at the end of the season, you're talking about 8 ranked teams, and I could make an argument that USF should be ranked after they beat Boise State last week. They weren't. I was a little disappointed in that, but you're talking about 8 ranked teams that you will have played. If that doesn't get you in there, then they're not serious about strength of schedule being a major factor in seeding for playoffs.
Yeah, and I think it's a different, as you point out, it's a different schedule now. It just got harder.
Yeah.
Like if you pick Florida to win 9 or 10 games, I'd rethink that a little bit, because that's going to be a tough task against these teams that we know now are better than we thought. Miami and LSU both better.
Florida State way better.
Florida started way better.
There was no world where I thought Florida State was the dominant team on the field with Alabama.
When you were talking about USF, maybe I have a little different take. When I watched that game, first of all, I could see without Genty, they just weren't as good. You could see that. Number 2, they dominated a number of plays in the game. They just couldn't put the ball in the end zone.
Yeah.
USF made big plays where, the fake punt, all of that. So impressive win, yes, but I don't think that team was all that good. But they were ranked at the time. So give them credit for that. But at least now Florida won't overlook them.
Yes. And I don't think necessarily that means USF will be ranked by the end of the season or anything like that. But there are not that many games that were played against ranked opponents.
Correct.
And where the underdog won. And
That's
so
right.
for going into this week 2, I think USF deserved to be, 25, 24, 23, somewhere in there, because they did what most other teams ahead of them did not do, which was beat a ranked opponent.
What do you make of the fact that the line has fallen to 17.5 now?
I mean, I think probably people are excited about the fact that USF upset Boise State, so the money's coming in on them. I think it says more about what happened in that game than it does anything about Florida.
Yeah, if it's 19 or 17, if it goes from 19 to 13, okay, maybe something there. But I think 17 is about right.
Yeah,
I think that's, if I'm gonna, I don't bet, but if I did, that seems to me a pretty good split.
Yeah.
Yeah, I reluctantly bring this up because it's always one of those things that it's like when I lived in Denver and everybody blamed the altitude for everything, But I will say that Boise looked like a different team in their first half.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, their opposition looked like they got stronger. And you think about the fact that Boise plays in altitude. They're down here in the middle of August, late August. It's heavy, it's a high humidity. Did it take a toll on their defense? Because their defense was stout the first half.
I mean, very possibly. It's the same concept as if you took a team from down here and put them in the snow and asked them if there's a great chance that the heat and humidity, played a role in this team's performance.
I just don't. I agree, but I just don't think their quarterback play was good. I didn't see difference makers at the wide receiver positions. They had trouble. Now,
you mean Boise?
Yeah. Does that mean USF's defense played well too? I think so, but I just didn't. And again, I don't know Boise's roster, but I didn't see anybody there that I just went, wow, look at him on offense. They were kind of pedestrian, and USF took advantage of that.
Yeah.
A little surprised about the right side of the offensive line not playing better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the offensive line is going to have to get better. That was a place that we were perceiving to be a massive strength. I think that it's a unit that, not just Gator fans, I think nationally we expect to perform really well, and they are going to have to immediately get better. I think was there 11 tackles for a loss allowed by the offensive line? Like, that was LIU. That was a glorified high school team. That's not great. That's going to need to improve. But that's also why I am so glad Florida's schedule is set up in the way that it is. This is the first time in the Billy Napier era where we haven't opened with a massive game. The line performs that poorly against a Utah or a Miami, and it's catastrophic. You miss 3 field goals against a Utah or a Miami, and it potentially costs you the game. This is great that Florida has the opportunity. LIU eases into USF, who's going to be tougher than LIU is, before you run into the belly of the beast in Baton Rouge. And God smiled on the Gators, as Spurrier would say, setting this up a little bit, because now we've got on film what needs to be fixed, and I think they're going to go do it. And I think Bryce Lovett probably had some talking to after that game.
Buddy, on my show when I came back to do it, that was a talking point that I brought up to fans, because look, I think everybody loves the fact LSU played Clemson and those marquee games, but every once in a while, to Allie's point, it's good to just ease into a schedule. And with DJ Lagway not having much practice, you want to have him go out and play LSU in game 1 or Miami in game 1. I'm not saying he would have done well, but I think the fact he could ease into this and they can see what they need to do and then get ready for week 3. I think I agree with Ali 100%. I think this year for this group was good.
Steve Russell, Ali Peak, Wilbur, 2 of the more knowledgeable people covering the Florida Gators with us tonight on the program. We're going to tell you about Meldon Law. Coming up, Scott Carter. And I want you to comment, and I asked this question earlier. Steve talked about it. The fact that now we have the big 3. Remember we used to call them big 3? Are back in the top 15 again in the national rankings. This is how it used to be back when Steve and I were young. When they were coming to
Yeah.
Florida, getting beat up by these Florida teams. Is this a trend? Is this really happening? Is Florida State really as good as they think they are? They think they're great. I saw Danny Cannell, they picked them to be fourth in the country or some ridiculous thing. So we'll see. But all props to Norvell, because he was dead man walking, and the Gus Malzahn's made a huge difference in that team. They're better on defense, and their play they were very good at quarterback. Castellanos is a runner. We'll talk about that. What else is there we have to talk about? Well, is Miami as good as we think they might be suddenly? And is Baton Rouge as mighty? You guys think about that when I come back. We'll examine it more after I tell you about our friends at Meldon Law. Meldon Law, of course, well known for their great law practices and their great community. They're also the only official law firm of the University of Florida. Jeffrey Meldon is legendary for the things he's done for the university. He loves the Gators. And of course, he makes it known that if you want to come by and see him, he'll talk law or he'll talk to Gators, either one. But if you need help in the law department, and we all are one day, you want to do business with a Gator, then you got one. You got a whole family there. And they're now stretching all the way from South Florida up now to the north, up North Ocala, Gainesville, Williston, Lake City. They are on top of things for you. I've engaged them for a project. If you need help with any kind of lawsuit, whatever, or even to review your current suit, you should get in touch with them. Meldon Law, they want back down. Okay, guys, is this the old days again? Are we running back to Wayback Machines, back to the 1990s when Florida football teams were always in the top 10 or 12, whatever? It's going to be FSU, Miami, and maybe others. How does that feel to you, Allie?
I saw a stat that the last time all three were in the top 15 was during the 2006 season.
Correct.
And college football is more fun when the programs in the state of Florida are good. And I don't know if that's just because we're Floridians and it's in us in that way, or if everybody across the country feels like that. But I just feel like those programs produce marquee games and storylines, and it is just more fun when they're all winning. And it puts a highlight on high school football in the state of Florida, because that's where the vast majority of these recruits come from these three programs. And I am all for it. Now, I want to beat both of them, but how much more does that title mean when you beat a Miami team that's good and a Florida State team that's good? If we figure out picking both of them off, and then obviously USF as well, we wouldn't have played UCF this year. That's a pretty nice round robin of wins for the state of Florida schools. And I hope that's what happens.
I think it's great for the state. I think it's great nationally because of the storyline that Allie mentioned. I can remember back in the old days when Sunshine Network used to rebroadcast some of those old games. And you look at the talent on the field and you went, good God, look how many people on those teams ended up playing in the National Football League and played well in the National Football League. I mean, the rivalries were great, even though Florida Miami didn't play every year. So I think it's great for the state. I think it's great for the rivalries, and I think it's great for college football.
And I don't know when the next time we're going to play Miami is going to be, given that we're going to a 9-game conference schedule, and obviously Florida State won't roll off there. So I'm kind of excited that in the last time we might see it for a little while, that it's going to be two really highly ranked teams by the time they play. And it's going to be fun.
What's it like down there? Miami fans are not the greatest in the world. They're great front runners, as we know. They love it when they're winning, but when the things get tough, they run and hide. What's it going to be like down in the Orange Bowl down there, Allie? And would it be like the old times, the old Miami, Florida?
I mean, I think it's going to look a lot like Swamp South. They have a very hard time filling a stadium. We do not. And I think the Gator Nation is spread out in South Florida. Lots of people will travel from Gainesville. I expect 50-50 or more, tilted orange and blue. So I'm not concerned about the atmosphere. Their fans are wild. I can tell you from interacting with fans online, just through doing podcasts and things like this, I have never met a more, let's think of a good word, intense fan base. The amount of things that got sent to me in private messages the week that we played them was just horrible, and not things like
they're nasty. They're nasty people, to be honest.
horrific. So many things that I reported because I was like, I can't believe you said that to me. Things about my children. I mean, their fans take things to an insane level. But the ones that have a little screw loose but are just having fun, I love that. I'm here for that. I love when fans take this seriously and are diehards for their team. But that fan base is some wackadoos for sure.
One thing, buddy, that I want to add to that.
Sure.
Look, even when Florida is having a down year, there's 90,000 people in there, 88,000 people in there. That's not the case at Miami.
Right.
It's not. Now, they had a good crowd there the other night. Okay. It was the old Catholics, convicts thing, that whole, resurrected thing. And Notre Dame brought a good crowd too. But as long as Miami wins, there'll be, the U and all that kind of stuff. But if not, they're gone.
Steve, don't do that. Don't do that again, please.
I know.
BOGO tickets for Catholics versus convicts. Think about that.
Yeah.
That is insane to me. Imagine if Notre Dame came to the Swamp this year. How hard do you think a ticket would be for that?
Yep, exactly.
And we don't have even the history with Notre Dame that Miami does.
Right.
So, I mean, that is just such a insane concept to me. But you're right. It's there's some fair weathered fans. We might complain and moan about what we want to have differently, but our butts are in the sands.
No question. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, look, fans are fans, but I got to tell you, I have a long history with Miami fans, and I know their history. I've followed them since I was a kid when they played on Friday nights. And my high school coach played for Miami, so I had a lot of respect for him. But they have never had a firm commitment in their soul. They don't commit squarely. They're easy to blow off their team. And the best word I can think of is dilettantes. You guys kind of know. I had to look it up to make sure I had the right direction, right description.
What a good SAT word there, buddy.
Yeah.
It's a person who cultivates an area of interest, such as the arts, without real commitment or knowledge. Is that not a Miami fan right there?
That is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Miami dilettantes. There you go. So
I like that.
And they will for sure not know what that means. So they'll just be insulted.
No. No.
Yeah, that hurt. Yeah. So, all right. So let's go to, I guess Scott Carter was going to join us. I guess he got tied up. It's okay. I want to go to the areas of concern on the team. We know there's some. What we think the expectations are and should be. The concern I would have, given the fact they got beat a few times at the line of scrimmage by an inferior team, do they have the might? Do they have the strength to really stop a hard-nosed football team? That's not what I don't know. And until I see it, like two prize fighters, heavyweights going at it, I'm not going to know it. I think that they do. They have they're very athletic, and their front seven, their linebackers are extremely good. They've got some good players on the front four, obviously, and they should handle it. But are they capable of going nose to nose with name a team? I don't care who it is, and say. And Miami at times look very physical. Do they have that muscle and that oomph up front?
We'll see on the offensive line.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Look, Billy said this after the game, and I get it. He said buddy, I told you earlier, they threw some things that then they'd not seen on tape. So
that's because nobody can find tape on LIU.
Well, that's it. So is that an excuse? Is that, look, I get it. If you think they're going to block in a certain way and they don't, well, then it takes you a while to adjust to that. So I'll give them a pass for that. But it better get better Saturday, because if it doesn't, the opponent is obviously better, and then you might have an issue. The thing I don't like much is defensively, we don't know. I mean, the offense that they ran was middle schoolish. They didn't throw the ball. So the defense, wasn't really tested there. So again, I think we'll see what this defense can do with a better USF team.
Allie?
I think there's more questions. I was left with more questions about Florida's offensive line than their defensive line, which I didn't expect. I was more confident. I was pretty confident in both, but I was more confident going in Florida's offensive line. But it actually doesn't seem to be their offensive line as a whole. I'm pretty sure Austin Barber and Jake Slaughter graded out the highest of anybody on the team.
Right
so
side.
I think when you say that again.
Right side.
Yeah. So I think that when you can pinpoint where the problem is, it's probably easier to correct, even if that means switching out somebody for somebody else or something. I think they have this game to figure out getting it together. I think that they are more talented and deeper than USF in a way that will allow them to still work on this offensive line as this game progresses, but you better have a solution by the end of it, because you are then out of time when the USF game ends. You're going into LSU week and your line better be shored up. As far as defensively, I think they only passed the ball maybe 9 times last week. And so it's a little bit difficult to tell. We don't know what we're dealing with, but I will say 86 yards total. Most yards we've allowed since 2016, I think. And that's impressive. 1 first down in each of the 2 halves, which means it was also 2 separate defenses because we were playing backups by the second half. That's pretty impressive. 2 recoveries, one of them being a scoop and score. That's pretty impressive. So I'm more confident in the defensive line right now than the offensive line, but I'm willing to give them 4 more quarters to right the ship.
Yeah, I mean,
you also like to think, Steve, that there's bright people like Bryce Thornton, who, by the way, remember he won the game last year about getting 2 interceptions, having 2 fumble recoveries, 1 scoop and score. He's a ball hawk. I like that. They need more of that kind of thing. They need more, and Billy said so. They got 2 turnovers. They said we wanted 5. That's a mission, and he said their defense is on a mission. They have got to make more plays and get the ball back for the offense.
But also think about how many young guys saw the field who might not see the field the rest of the season. I feel like it's not like we watched Florida's starting defense for 4 straight quarters. We didn't. The amount of people that got on the field is something we got to take into account as we're judging these teams as well.
Yeah. And that's the way it should be in a game like that. Coach Spurrier talks all the time about the walk-ons that got a chance to play. They'll always remember that, or if they scored a touchdown in the swamp. Well, that's what that's about too. And I'm glad Billy did that. He put, how many freshmen played? Just a 13. Ton of them. So great for that. And they may not get to play much the rest of the year, but at least they got to play in the swamp this year, and that's a good thing.
I always maintain that your walk-ons are your lifeblood of your program, and you're giving those families a moment that they will never forget. And, if you're somebody, I think about Eric. Eric started every single game of his entire career. He didn't play Vanderbilt his senior year because they didn't punt that game. But that's it. And so it might not mean the same for him. My brother was a walk-on. I remember the first snap that he ever got to play. It's seared in my brain. It's been, 18 years since that. And that's going to be the same for those families. So I love that Napier made sure to do that. I would rather, 15 less points and 10 more walk-ons get to see the field than anything else. And so I think that's really cool.
Those guys sweat and lift weights just like the starters do. They deserve that.
Yeah. Let's talk about the elephant in the room, literally. That would be the one in Tuscaloosa. It's staggering. We knew the person following the goat is always going to have a hard time, as Ron Zook. We know that formula. And it was a tough for DeMore. It was an awful weekend because, in addition to the fact they got beat by an unranked team, they're also they just look like they may lose 6 games this year, and it brings up the topic of getting beat by an unranked team. You didn't see great coaches like Spurrier and Irwin getting beat by unranked teams. Mm-hmm. This is Alabama now. They're raising a lot of hell in Alabama these days, and they're going to be raising a lot more hell. Yeah. Here's the lineup. I want you guys to think of this. Who will have an unranked loss this weekend? All right. Alabama versus ULM, SMU versus Baylor, Iowa State versus Iowa, Florida versus South Florida, Illinois versus Duke.
Who has a loss there?
Who has a loss to an unranked team? Which one the most likely?
Probably that SMU Baylor game or the
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that would be my biggest, and then second to that would be Ohio State, Iowa. Not that I think that it's happened, but it's more likely than some of these other ones.
Yeah. I mean, Iowa State, Iowa's a rivalry game, all of that. Iowa State played great over in Dublin. But I don't think Iowa scores enough. So yeah, I agree. I think it'd be the Baylor game.
Mm-hmm. Well, how about Duke beating Illinois? That's a possibility too.
Illinois is pretty good, and Duke struggled their opening week, and Illinois. And here's a case of a guy that was out of Arkansas. They ran him out. He goes to Illinois, and he's resurrected that program. So you never quite know what's going to happen when the coach gets a second chance. I think Bielema has done a nice job there. I think they win.
You mentioned Bielema. Is there anybody else's career coaching got resurrected after the last couple of weeks? And what's happened to some of these guys? They're back again. Who's likely? What head's likely to roll first in the SEC? I mean, Sam Pittman's got to get it going.
They played well against nobody, in the first week. But Ali, would you agree? I certainly Auburn. There's pressure on him. Now they look good.
They look
first
real
week,
good.
But I think if you went around our league, you probably look at Arkansas. You look at Auburn. I think those are probably the two places that if they had a bad and Alabama, if they go 8-4, they'll probably run him out of town. So maybe that.
DeBoer is probably on the hottest seat of all in
Yes.
the SEC, and that's because Alabama doesn't play. But you also have to think he's still playing with Nick Saban recruits. This is not like he had 4 years to run this program into the ground, and these are just he couldn't get recruiting going, and there was no NIL money or anything like this. He took a Saban laser-focused team, and they look unrecognizable one season and one game later. Yeah. And that is, I don't know if you saw the picture from warm-ups, but I saw a picture. I don't know who the lineman was, but he's warming up and he's got Beats headphones on, which I understand is not necessarily an anomaly during warm-ups, but I feel like it's an anomaly for a Saban coach team. And his phone is in his hand while he's doing the warm-up so that he can control his music. And I am just picturing Nick Saban's head exploding. I mean, Urban Meyer's head would have exploded.
Yep.
The things that would never have been allowed 13 months ago or 15 months ago, whenever Saban was last head coach, is just insane. And some of the stuff that has come out from Florida State about the things that they did to like show their dominance to Alabama are like their lines and stuff. I'm not going to go in any more detail than that because it's slightly graphic, but like those are not things that would have happened to a Saban coach team. And it makes me think, and I don't know, you guys probably knew this. I didn't realize until today that the way that DeBoer's buyout is set up is that whatever the number is, which I think is 60 million, but it's set out to be paid in a monthly increments through like 2030 or something if he were to get fired. So it's just a line item on a budget. It's not like they're handing him $60 million tomorrow if they fired him. It's a drop in the bucket for them if they decide they want to move on to somebody else. But that seat is probably the hottest.
And to your point, the thing that I, buddy, felt watching that game, and I watched it again, was the undisciplined play of Alabama. Just the stupid mistakes that they made. And look, did they make them under Saban? Of course they did. Nobody's immune to that, but not like that.
Same way.
Not like that. And if they did it, believe me, they did it once with Saban and they didn't do it again. And I'll also say this. Replacing a legend is never easy because the fan base they expect that new guy to do what the legend did.
Yeah.
And that is so hard to do. And nowadays, you don't get any time to
None.
do it. But look, I don't feel sorry for him because you know that going in. And if you don't know it, you're stupid because you should know where you're going. That's going to happen.
$11 or whatever should comfort you at night while you're, have this hard job. But that's Ron Zook. I can remember when Steve Spurrier announced he was leaving Florida, my dad looked at me and said, man, it's going to stink for whoever they hire. You never want to be the person that follows the legend. You want to be the person that follows the person that follows the legend. And that ended up being true. And I think about poor Ron Zook sitting at 8-4 is like, wait a minute, are they literally saying 8-4 is going to get a fourth year? Poor Ron Zook.
Yeah.
But you're exactly right. Like he walked into an incredibly difficult job, but he's getting paid a ton of money and not doing a particularly good job right now.
The most damning thing I heard, and I don't cite Paul Feinbaum as an expert on ball, but he made a point of saying this. He said he was in New York the Monday after the Alabama game, and I guess Dan Orlovsky, who's their guy in the morning who does the analysis, he said Orlovsky put up the video of Alabama. He says he counted 21 times Alabama's plays were bad as a result of lack of effort. Now, that's pretty damning.
Saban would have kicked guys off the team.
Yeah, or they wouldn't play. Either one. Yeah. And that was my point, that the undisciplined, lack of effort, that's on the coach. I'm sorry. The player's responsible, but the ultimate responsibility is the coach, and he better fix that.
Is what will continue.
Yep.
All right, each one of you get 30 seconds to tell me what's going to happen this Saturday. Allie, you start.
I think Florida takes care of business against USF, I think pretty easily. My score prediction right now is 37-10. I think they have a little success with their running quarterback, but UF gets better and they move on to 2-0.
In the area of the Florida's team, you expect to
I'm excited to watch the field goal kicking unit. Eric and I watched film pretty intently and broke down exactly what went wrong. He's pretty convinced that it's Doman and Smack getting kind of used to each other as opposed to any actual kicking issues for Smack. He feels like it's something that's going to be really easily correctable once they watch the tape.
Allie breaking down film, Steve. Beat that.
Yes.
Yeah, huh? Come on.
We were breaking down.
Got a kicker in the family, right?
It was so interesting to me. He's like, do you see how he didn't open up his hips while he's holding and his body's projected straight down the field instead of towards the hash? That's changing the trajectory. But all of his
I was saying about same thing. That was the same thing.
Same thing. Well, all he thinks basically it's Doman being new and that it's something he'll learn. They'll adjust. They'll watch.
A little bonus there from the Wilbur household. Thank you, Allie. Good job, Steve. Great having you guys on. Appreciate it. You have a good week. Enjoy the game. I'll see you at the contest there, Steve. All right?
All right. Yep. Thank you, buddy.
Bye, Allie. Thank you.
Good to see you, Allie. Say hi to Eric.
I will tell him hi. Our kids listen to you on the way home from every game, so I cannot wait.
Thank you.
Tell him I'm with you.
All right, Steve. Thanks, Allie.
Okay.
All right, folks. I'll just say one more time, tell you about our sponsors. I thank the folks at Titan MRI and Imaging, especially Joe Colorio and his leadership there. They have 3 locations to serve you. Titan does 2 in Gainesville with Park Avenue location, and now at the Millennium Center, and 1 in Lake City, serving all of Columbia County and Valdosta area. Titan MRI and Imaging offers the same great customer service they always have. They now accept insurance, or you can go through their convenient self-pay options. They offer MRIs, CAT scans, X-rays, and ultrasounds. And the good thing about it is they have easy scheduling with flexibility and options for you. If you can't make it at a certain time during the afternoon, they make an appointment at night. Larger MRI machines for your patient comfort. No ERs, no hospitals. Coming soon to Ocala for better serving Marion County and the surrounding area. Titan MRI. It's your choice. All right. Thanks. Folks, have a good night, and we will catch you tomorrow night with our usual gang. Enjoyed being with you, and we'll catch you tomorrow night and then the weekend. You have a good one, and thanks for listening, and thanks for watching, and we'll say good night.